Welcome, everybody, to Dad's Gone Crypto. It's an exciting episode, especially for us, because there's an exciting project out there that's potentially a disruptor in the industry. And we have Josh Watkins, CEO of Minutes, and he's going to explain to us what his company is about. How is it changing the game in the telecommunication space? We talk about crypto projects, then we're talking about real world projects, changing the game and leveraging the blockchain technology to take it to that next level. Josh, welcome to Dad's Gone Crypto. We're very excited to have you.
Thank you very much for having me, Sean. Ryan, it's a pleasure to be here today.
Great to have you. Thanks.
Fantastic. So, Josh, tell us a little bit about your background and how did it lead you to this point in time where now you have a crypto company and a real world business and you're merging the two technologies. Tell us a bit about how you got here today.
So I've spent the last 20 years engaged in telecommunications activities. We've been building different types of switches. We've been working on different compressions for different codecs, extending the existing voice over IP protocol. We've worked with big names, small names, niche names, enterprises. I mean, we've practically been all over the globe taking care of different telecommunications operations. It was a family-run business. Me and my brother Mickey, we started when I was very young and Mickey was younger. And we've never looked back. It was something that was very pleasing and to do, and we have a lot of passion when it comes to telecommunications. It's a real live model that allows you to sort of get involved with some of the big names as long as you know you have innovative technologies and you have solutions. People in the industry, carriers, especially the tier one sort of giants out there, they're looking to innovate consistently. They're always looking for new solutions and ways to adapt and grow their own businesses and profit margins. So it's a really exciting business. It's something that I'm very passionate about. And all of my knowledge over the last 20 years and experience and connections have sort of boiled into one company. And yeah, I mean, here we are today, Minutes Network, and we're doing something very exciting and very, very new to the industry. So I'm pleased to be here.
Yeah, thanks, Josh. It's great to have you on here. So, can you give us a breakdown of what Minutes Network is in layman's terms?
So what we do, our primary focus is on the business to business market, and we're working on a solution that's live now to reinvigorate carrier core profitability. And when we say core profitability, it's all about increasing the margin that we make on carriers' calls. Okay, so right now, if a carrier has a certain amount of customers, those customers make paid for telephone calls. And usually what happens is the paid for telephone call is connected through a series of wholesale partners and intermediaries in between. It's the call destination, and each one of those intermediaries takes a cut on the call, on the revenue made in the call, and we're increasing the profit for the carrier by removing all of those middlemen from the picture and terminating the call in a brand new way.
Oh,
Fantastic.
very cool. Do you have like a visual or anything you could bring up to kind of show that?
Absolutely. So we have a network topology diagram here. This is a very high level diagram. And as you can see, we receive calls from tier one carriers, tier two carriers as well. And those calls are coming from the PSTN, the public switching telephony network. And they are regular telecommunication subscribers. They're people who pay a subscription every month for a SIM card. And they use that SIM card to make calls to their family, to their friends, to businesses, to different facilities that are available to make calls to. So what we do is we onboard these companies, and we do that in a very special way. Every single VoIP provider out there, or physical infrastructure provider for telephony, they have a rates list to their destination. So let's say that their customers make a call to Algeria, for example. That call has a select rate in the market, and they have something called a least cost routing table, LCR. And this least cost routing table allows the carrier to select the cheapest, lowest cost route to the customer's destination possible automatically. And it's selected by price and quality. And the lowest priced carrier will be selected first to try to make the customer's call and complete it to the recipient. The LCR is a solution that's been around for a very long time, and it allows carriers to always try to maximize their profit margins on all of their customers' calls. Now, Minutes Network will always sit at the top of the LCR because of our lowest cost model, and we'll get into how we provide the lowest cost very shortly. So we attract telephone companies to Minutes Network by offering a very low cost rate, and we're able to do that using our proprietary technology that we spent a lot of the last 5 to 6 years working on, which is a combination of all of my experience in the industry, putting it to work. So what happens is these telephone companies, they connect with us, they send a call to Minutes Network. Minutes Network receives the call on a carrier level, a carrier grade switch, and the call is forwarded to the validation nodes. The validation nodes are responsible to check the endpoint that receives the call recipient. If the endpoint, and we'll get into this very shortly, if the endpoint is in a sufficient coverage area and the bandwidth is deemed to be, appropriate for that call to be delivered, the call is then forwarded along to the switch nodes, and the switch nodes will make the call directly to the end user, bypassing all intermediaries, all middle wholesalers, and this is how we select our cost. So we set our own cost at Minutes Network, price per minute. Normally, in the industry, it's billed per minute. It's second to second billing. They call it minutes, as far as terminology goes in the industry. And we're able to set our own price, and we're able to do that because we terminate the call directly to an end user. We don't use traditional call methodologies to actually terminate that call. We land the call on an existing application on the user's telephone, and in this way, we do a whole load of different things that allow us to be extremely competitive with pricing, and we're able to set our own price, as I said, which gives the carrier more incentive to use us to send the call. So we collect all the volume from the carrier, top of the LCR, with the lowest price, and all because we're landing the call directly on the user's telephone via an existing application.
Wow,
So
incredible.
So Josh, a follow-up question on that, right? So you become a provider, one of, let's say, 10 providers. So price is great, and telco companies want to maximize profits, great. But how do you ensure the quality that you're on top of the list on price, but also on top of the list on quality of call to that particular recipient?
So we use a special technology that we've developed in-house, and it's compatible with the switch nodes. It's actually part of the technology that the switch and validation nodes run. And we do some bandwidth checks. We check latency, we check the jitter on the line, we check for, it's a custom call signature. And we do some benchmarking on the end user's connection. And if the validation node deems that the connection is successfully sufficient to make this call and the customer can receive the call, we go ahead and pass the call forward to the customer. If the validation node deems that the internet connection of the end user is not sufficient to terminate this call and connect this call, then we reject the call along this line here, and we send it back to the telephone company where they reroute it to the next routing line in their least cost routing table.
Okay. All right. Thus ensuring that you've always giving and delivering a good quality call. If not, it gets passed back to the other operators.
That's correct. And all of that process happens in under 200 milliseconds.
Wow.
That's incredible. So, Josh, Ryan and I are big fans, obviously, with the World Mobile. We've been around for a while, trying to understand their play. What are they doing? But how does World Mobile traditionally differ from what you are doing? Is it the same? Did you just branch off and focus in one niche area? Is there perhaps a correlation or a synergy of companies later on?
We're very symbiotic to World Mobile. We provide solutions that World Mobile need for their end customers. World Mobile are connecting the unconnected. They're providing data solutions to those who don't currently have internet and to areas that are just not covered by existing telephony operators. And at Minutes Network, we're absolutely focused on the voice parts of the industry. And in the voice segment of telecommunications, we are able to provide World Mobile with significantly lower costs on their customers' termination, on their customers' voice calls that are originated from the network. And we're able to provide World Mobile with a solution for their customers to make calls at a much lower cost compared to competing operators, for example, in the USA, where World Mobile owns spectrum and license for an MNO. We're able to assist in the delivery of those calls at a hugely discounted rate, which further increases the profit that World Mobile make. World Mobile are also very useful to Minutes Network in the sense that they are providing decentralized Earth node technology, and we're able to run our switch nodes and validation nodes on those Earth nodes. And there are a few other different features that they're providing to us, and we're a symbiotic relationship. We're completing each other.
Oh, okay. So, how does your technology integrate into the telco to allow you to be a provider? And what benefit or features do you have that is a disruptor to other competitors in the same space for this revenue share?
So the competition, they have a rate that's set by the regulators using traditional telephony infrastructure. They're required to own a license for telecommunications termination, and they have a floor rate, let's say, that's set by the competing operators. Okay, so in any market, there's a minimum rate that can be charged in any country. Minutes Networks set their own rate. We're able to create our own rate because we own our own infrastructure, and we do not require licenses in the countries that we want to terminate, because in the majority of countries, voice over IP is not regulated. Now, we connect to the telecommunications carrier on the protocol called SIP, Session Initiation Protocol. It's an enterprise level protocol, extremely compatible. And you'll find that most traditional enterprises today, probably all traditional enterprises today working in the voice telecommunications field, are using SIP to terminate calls digitally. So we're using a SIP switch to connect to our customers.
Okay. Now, how does Minutes make money from this? And like, do the switch nodes and validator nodes play a role in all this? And is that how they earn?
Yes. So what happens is the telco sends us telephone calls. We connect those telephone calls to their end recipient destinations via the switch nodes with the help of the validation nodes in terms of checking that the recipient is able to receive the call and is online and isn't at the cafe with a weak internet connection. And because we're able to set our own rates, and because we work with we work in a brand new proprietary model for call termination, then we're able to keep all of the revenue that comes in from the carrier. We are not reliant upon a terminating partner, because normally in a call termination model, you have the originator who is making the call, and you have the termination partner who is terminating the call to its recipient. And in our model, we do not we have no requirement to pay the termination provider, because we are the termination provider. So we collect 100% of revenue from the originating carrier, and we keep that revenue on board, and it becomes part of our sharing economy.
So, Josh, tell me, with regards to your nodes, you have switch and validators, and those are they truly decentralized? And is there a point in the system that it can be hacked? I know you're offering a feature that when you stake your tokens to either 50,000 minutes or 10,000 minutes for the validator, that you guys will run the nodes in that part. Is there a risk of it not being decentralized, or is it still decentralized? And then also, I'd like to just understand a little bit of comparison between the different competitors out there.
Sure. So how it works is when we host a node for our clients who stake for nodes, we are hosting them on decentralized servers such as Earth nodes. We've made a couple of partnerships with different decentralized node infrastructure providers over the past couple of months. And we are using decentralized servers to actually host the switch and validation nodes when we host them. When they are self-hosted, i.e. the staker is hosting it on his own server, it's furthering the decentralization of the network. We are an entirely decentralized network, and we do not rely on a single point of presence or a single point of installation. There are no server farms that hold all of our infrastructure. As I said, you can self-host or we can manage it for you. And just, the Earth nodes are providing, you asked earlier regarding World Mobile, the Earth nodes are providing a further decentralization to our network by also being run by different node operators around the world. In terms of competition, today we don't have any competition. So the reason for that is because we're using this proprietary technology that we've invented at Minutes Network, and we're able to control the cost of the call, and we're able to land the call directly onto the recipient's telephone via an embedded existing application on the user's telephone. So that could be a finance app, that could be a fitness app, that could be any type of app that you can think of that would like to make an additional revenue stream. We provide applications with a brand new revenue stream. It's an incremental revenue stream, and it's non-disruptive to the user's experience. We don't add pop-ups. We don't add annoying buttons. There's no dialer on the application. The only thing the user actually sees is when his friend or when his colleague or when a call comes into his phone from Minutes Network, he receives a standard Android incoming call screen. He can answer the call. He can reject the call. He has all of the same features you'll see today when you receive a call. Through this, we're able to set our own rates on termination. Obviously, we incentivize the partnering application provider by offering them a revenue share. This is prior to the net revenues being onboarded and used for the token buybacks. Now, as you can see here on the screen, we have a comparison chart comparing us to people who are also running telecommunications operations in the industry. You have WhatsApp as an example. WhatsApp are peer-to-peer. You are required to install WhatsApp on your telephone, and the recipient of the call must have WhatsApp on their telephone. They do not allow calling outside of the application. Minutes Network does not operate in the free calling industry. We are not a peer-to-peer solution. We're a hybrid PSTN, public switching telephony network solution, to peer. So we are PSTN to peer. It's a new model, as I've said. And in this hybrid solution, we're collecting calls from the traditional networks and we're terminating them on data networks. And here you have some of the differences between our network and existing companies in the industry.
All right, Josh, would you mind just sharing some information regarding the white paper, just to elaborate more on the Minutes Network?
Sure. So the white paper is set to be released around the launch of the TGE, or the public sale. Here are some takeouts and insights into what's going to be inside the white paper. We have instant network creation, because when we onboard an application, they implement and embed our SDK within the application. In just a couple of lines of code, their entire existing user base becomes reachable and accessible to Minutes Network, allowing us to instantly form a private telecommunications network from existing customers. You will find more information about this in the white paper under the label MRGL. It stands for MinTech Rapid Growth Library, and it's all about how we grow our user base instantly. We also have passive seamless mass blockchain adoption. We announced a small piece on this very recently on our socials. And because we reward all network participants, we reward stakers, we reward callers and callees. When we reward the caller and callee, we create a wallet for them, a Web3 compatible wallet, and they're able to claim their rewards from our website once they reach a certain threshold. And obviously, what that does, in creating the wallet for these callers and callees on our network and on the Web3, on the Web3 network, it allows people to access a Web3 wallet with rewards that are already housed in that wallet, and we'll be creating hundreds of millions of wallets on our selected blockchain every year. We have the commoditized monetization platform. We are dealing with a commodity here, voice over IP, telecommunications. The industry is regarded as a commodity, and each minute that passes is paid for. And these minutes are being paid for by billion-dollar corporations that have been around for the last 20, 25 years. We are fueled by tier one carriers Those carriers are driving the traffic to the network. They're collecting traffic from retail users, from call centers, from all different, various types of operations that have existed for a long time. And we're using those carriers to buy these minutes. And the minutes are fueling our sharing economy. We don't require consumer marketing. Now, this is where it gets a bit interesting regarding our build. We are the only telephony carrier to date in the world that does not require marketing to attract and onboard customers. We onboard customers in mass by including our SDK in existing applications. So let's take a fintech application for an example. If a fintech application, let's not say any names right now, has 10 million users, they incorporate the SDK within the application, and all of those 10 million users, as they update on the Play Store, they become reachable 2 minutes network with no advertising cost. So we're able to, grow our network, millions of users per installation of our SDK in applications. Cell
that's
phone,
incredible.
yeah, thank you very much.
So you're marketing, you're basically going out and selling this to the carriers rather than to the direct consumers.
That's correct. We're selling to the carriers, and we unlike traditional carriers, we're not aiming to collect customers as a carrier. We are simply collecting customers in mass by onboarding entire user bases that are integrating our SDK.
Josh, you mentioned Android, and all the Apple people are busy cringing in their seats. when Apple, yeah.
We're looking into Apple. The API is a little bit different. They work a little bit differently. We're looking into it, but we're going to onboard Android users first. We have some very, very large partnerships. One of our primary, partnerships that we've made has more than 1 billion users. We've signed an exclusivity deal with that application. I won't mention it today. The name of the application will be released closer to the public sale. And we have a 5-year exclusivity contract with that application. So we've already covered a big part of the globe in terms of onboarding users. And we're in talks with different applications today, multiple top 10, top 20 applications from the charts.
Wow.
Exciting news ahead, right?
Yeah.
Just tell me, let's move on to a little bit of tokenomics. Now we know that you can't say much because you're the head of the organization, but from a high level point of view, can you explain to our audience, how did you come up with your tokenomics, and how did you get to the point of, let's say, 500 million tokens? What was the idea behind setting up your, because there's models that allow for different growth, different demands, different needs. How did you come up with yours?
We were recommended our tokenomics by a company called 01 based in Dubai. Joachim Gadot also designed the tokenomics for World Mobile. We are a deflationary token with an algorithmic burn in place. And we chose the number 500 million because it's adequately substantial in terms of what we need to reward all of our network participants and what we need to run our network. We didn't want to have too many tokens, and we didn't want to have too little tokens. So there were some algorithms and calculations that were made regarding the amount of calls we're going to be making each year at scale, and regarding what people in the industry today are currently appreciating. And that's where we've included the deflation. There is no inflation in our token, and we are algorithmically burning each time we distribute rewards.
So you guys just finished up your private sale round, I believe, and you had a huge success in there. From what I've seen, it looks like you guys were over 600% oversubscribed in your private sale rounds. Can you tell how does that impact your tokenomics at all? And does it at all, being that you're oversubscribed in the private sale?
We cut the private sale as soon as we'd sold the 12.5 million tokens that are assigned in our tokenomics to the private sale. So it doesn't affect the tokenomics. We were greatly, we were very happy with the result, with the quick closure of the sale. I think it closed in a matter of hours. The money was raised, and it was raised by 2 internal communities and a couple of members of the public, as well as private sort of individuals that came in prior to the announcement in those communities. It was closed very quick, and we were super excited at the response and the sentiment that we received when we hosted a couple of internal AMAs. Very nice words being exchanged, and yeah, we were honored to be in the position we were in, or we are in.
Oh, that's great. So obviously then, so when you say you were 600% oversubscribed, you obviously didn't allow, though that got cut off at your tokenomics limit, and the rest unfortunately just didn't make it in, correct? And maybe they're going to get into the next rounds, the public and whatnot.
That's correct. So we're receiving still today numerous emails regarding reservations of switch nodes and getting into the private sale. And we always use the same reply that the head of token sends the reply. We're very sorry. We're currently closed in terms of private sale, but you can join us in the public round by registering on our website for the TGE whitelist.
Oh, that's fantastic. Congrats on that success there.
Yeah, congratulations.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Sean.
All right, so Josh, we're moving on to nodes and rewards. There's been a lot of chatter about it and excitement now that some of the private investors have got their validators and their switches. The next question is, of course, like what happens? What is the potential of these little babies? But before we get there, can you just go over what is the validator? What is the switch node?
Absolutely. So the switch node collects traffic from the public traditional telephone carriers, like the tier ones we talked about earlier. And the switch node then takes the call further into our network and terminates the call with the help of the validation node onto the remote receiving application. So, we take a call, we onboard it into the network, and we pass it to the recipient user who's running a compatible application that is already integrated into Minutes network. And it's scalable infrastructure, providing a seamless connection. It's a passive connection. We can handle millions of telephone calls per day per node. We produce live analytics and metrics that are available in the staker's control panel. It's powered by custom SIP architecture that we've built internally and extended the SIP protocol internally. It follows RFCs, so it's very highly compatible with existing enterprise infrastructure. The configuration is automatic. We provide a wizard, an installation wizard. There are no expertise required for installation. And we provide a GUI, a graphical user interface for the user, the staker, to actually manage and monitor what's happening on his node. And it's all powered by cloud infrastructure, self-hosted infrastructure, and the Earth nodes from World Mobile, amongst some other decentralized node providers. Okay, and if we can talk about the switch, the validation nodes here.
Yep.
Again, they are automatically configured. The validation nodes are assisting the switch nodes in the connections of calls. They do not allow calls to be connected where the quality will be less than our threshold and benchmark. They continuously monitor the network's health and integrity, and they are consistently talking to the end users and internal network to validate the health and status and integrity of the network. And they're performing live analysis to ensure that the network is running at an optimal situation at all times. And these are the validation nodes. They're responsible for maintaining the network and the quality of the calls passed over the network.
And all of this is built. It's live. It's working. It's kind of hard. It's traditional crypto. It's kind of like, I've got an idea. Let's raise for it. Let's build, and then it takes like 13 to 15 years to come up with a plausible project. You guys have done something different where you've come to market where it's built, and that's why we also get a lot of questions like, how is it built? How is it working? This seems a bit too good to be true. So all of this, what you just mentioned now, is live, it's working, and it gives feedback.
Yeah, the entire network is functional today. We have more than 50,000 users onboarded running in Bangladesh, and we're consistently looking at scaling the network with our partners. Before the end of Q2, we'll have 20 million users on board with our first large application partner, who I mentioned earlier. The name will be exposed closer to the public sale. And you can check out our network explorer at explorer.minutesnetworktoken.io. and it gives some insight into what's happening on the network, where the customers are receiving calls, how many calls we're processing. And as we go along and get closer to the public sale, more and more of those features on the dashboard will become available and highlighted. Right now, we're using an internal blockchain, an internal node structure for our testing, but everything is working flawlessly, and we're very excited for the big launch, the onboarding of these 20 million users.
Oh, yeah, we're really excited about it too. So going back to the nodes, you just recently finished your private sale and your node reservation round, or early node reservation round, if I'm not mistaken.
That's
So,
correct, yeah.
okay, and in those rounds, in order to reserve those nodes, you needed 50,000 M&T tokens to reserve a switch node and 10,000 M&T tokens to reserve the validator node. Is that correct?
That's correct, yes. And we gave a discount in the early node reservation round, and as with the private sale, it was oversubscribed. It was sold out very, very quickly, massive demand. And, we're just about to start tier one advertising, which is going to be very, very exciting for our network's growth.
Wow. Yeah, we can't wait. So with those numbers in mind, one question we kept getting asked was, are you able to overstake? So like, are you able to overstake if it's just 50,000 tokens are in a switch node, or can you put 60,000 tokens in? And if so, do you earn more rewards based on how much you're staking to it?
You can overstake per node. We do not support delegation. You are either a node owner, a node staker, or you're not.
Okay.
But you can overstake per node. We have some network algorithm for decay, so that the people who are massively overstaking, I mean, there'll be an announcement on all of this coming very shortly, and a deep dive into the tokenomics at Minutes Network token.
Okay.
And Josh, why don't you allow for delegation?
We don't allow for delegation as per our recommendation from our tokenomics providers.
Okay. All right. So someone that did not get into a node, they would not be able to take their tokens and say, hey, Dad's gone crypto nodes. We can delegate our or stake our tokens on your nodes and share the reward. So that's not allowed.
You can do that privately, and we wouldn't have a problem with that, the network, if you were to do that privately, but we don't offer architecture that supports this.
Got it.
Basically, you're receiving a staking ROI when you own one of these nodes and you're staking your tokens to the node. So will this be based only on the data burn system, or are you offering a standard APY also?
So the APY is dynamically calculated. It's calculated by the amount of applications that are driving revenue on the network and the amount of carriers that are driving revenue on the network. So what happens is the more applications we add, the more users we have in the network, the more people we can reach, the more carriers we add, the more telephone call volume that we receive from the carriers, and the larger the revenues are produced. So when there's more revenue being produced, all of the net revenue at Minutes Network is onboarded into the secondary or open market. And we use that net revenue to buy back tokens from the market, which is going to cause significant buy pressure. And it will also cause the reward to be enlarged for the network participants. Therefore, the APY is truly dynamic and driven by network performance and network success.
Excellent.
With regards to the nodes, right? What type of rewards could, now it's based on performance, sure. Is there a understanding of what the node operators could look forward to in owning one as the network onboards more users? Let's say a million users, 10 million users, a billion users. Is there a sort of algorithm that you can maybe share with us?
There's some napkin math out there amongst the communities. People have made their own mathematics. I was delighted to have a look at them. And some of them are not far off. The rates, the differentiator between countries. Some telephone calls connect at $1 per minute. You have the Papua New Guineas, the Algerias, the Moroccos, where it's a very high price per minute. And then you have the countries like USA, where the minute price is very low. Obviously, volume has a significant effect on that too. So it's a calculation between volume inbound of telephone calls, ability to reach recipients via applications onboarded, and the rate of the telephone calls in the countries that we are currently operating. We're going to be starting with Bangladesh, Philippines, Morocco, Algeria, India, and the United States as well. And we're looking at providing global coverage. The more applications we onboard, the more countries we can cover. And we're looking at niche applications in select countries where the rate is very high. And we're also looking at applications where there are lots of people in countries like Nigeria, Pakistan, so that you have a large amount of volume, and it doesn't really matter so much about the rate because the volume makes up for it. So I can't give you any math on that, but if you explore the communities that are sort of involved, you will find some different, what they call napkin mathematics on this question.
So now you have a whole bunch of people out there that did not get a node, and they are stressing because now they're running these napkin mathematics in their heads. What is the algorithm that you guys have put in place? So let's say you've sold your private round, you've sold your pre-sale, now you're going to public. Now I'm in public and I didn't get a validator and I didn't get a switch, and I've bought 10,000 tokens, right, for a validator. How do I fit in the ranking system to get, because I'm not guaranteed a node, right? So how does that work? And let's say a node operator that bought in the private sale says, well, I don't want this anymore, and he unstakes his token and sells it, and one becomes available. Do you have a system that says Sean is 223rd on the list and Ryan is second on the list to getting that node? I just want to know which tires I have to slash after hours.
So we have not released all of the nodes in the early staking round. We've released 300 switch nodes and 300 validation nodes. So there are nodes left to be reserved in the public round. It is first come, first served. As you make your reservation, purchase your tokens, place your order for a switch node or validation node, you will be entered into a tiered list. And depending at which point you entered that list, depending obviously whether you actually get a node or not. Now, as people unstake their nodes on the network, which is the inevitable, you will get some people that would like to capitalize on their sort of gains early. And as they capitalize on their gains, nodes will become available on the network. And as nodes become available on the network, we have an automated system connected to Twitter that tells you, okay, today 3 nodes are available, Minutes Network. You can now enter your panel and you can quickly go and stake for one of those nodes. And as soon as nodes become available, we have an automatic announcement to enlighten the community as to the opportunity.
Thus making sure that guys hold on to their tokens for that potential opportunity and the rewards of that node. Very cool.
It's just the way that we've selected to do it. We haven't seen it done elsewhere like this in the industry, but it's something that we felt would be a nice way to do this.
Yeah, it's very interesting.
Moving along to the future of Minutes, Josh, if you had a crystal ball 3 to 5 years from now, where do you see Minutes in this space?
We're going to take a large part of the telecommunications volume. All of those paid for calls are going to land on our platform. We'll take as much of the paid for calling industry as we can, as quickly as we can. We're locking applications into an exclusivity agreement for at least 5 years. And I think in a couple of years' time, we'll be looking at some significant revenues.
So you're locking people up for about 5 years. Can another crypto project just come in and copy what you're doing and price you out of the market after that 5 years?
We're looking right now at securing several patents with our lawyers. And after the 5-year period has ended, or just before, we're going to reapproach the applications that we're working with to further the exclusivity deals in place. We will also not be outpriced because we will simply reduce our price if needs be after the 5-year period. You have to take companies like Uber as an example. Uber came to the market with something fantastic. They decentralized or redistributed part of the taxi industry. And what happened was people released applications like Get Taxi, My Taxi, all different types of mini Ubers. But being a first mover in the market has its advantage. And as it stands today, we are the first mover in the market, and we've already secured more than 10% of the population on the planet. So we will continue to secure more applications, providing a growing percentage of the population being locked into our network and reachable via our network. As I said previously, we are in talks with some of the largest applications in the world actively, and we are looking to further monetize their user bases. When you look at it today, they have advertisements, video advertisements, standard pop-ups. They have premium purchases within applications, the subscription models, and paid-for applications. They are most of the types of monetization models that exist for an application today. We're bringing a brand new monetization stream to these applications, and it's producing significant revenue. So the applications, we're getting a brilliant response when we approach them. The larger the user base, the more money they can make. It's very black and white. And we have all of these, large carriers that we're interconnected with amongst a panel of our partner interconnections like IDT. They deal with billions of dollars of traffic each year. There are many more carriers that we're interconnected with on our website, and they're aggregating large volumes for us. So we provide an attractive opportunity for these applications, and we expect to onboard a huge percentage of the world into our private telephony network over the coming months ahead.
Josh, I'd like to just ask a question. Maybe it should have been asked earlier, but just listening to you. So the traditional way of how telecommunications uses these secondary companies, or how can I say, subsidiary companies, is that they help to connect those calls, and there's a fee that is charged. Then you get onto this list. That list, depending on your rate and your quality, will move you up and down this list. Now you're talking about a particular app and going through app companies, which technically, does it allow you to bypass the traditional telecommunications because you're using those companies as an opportunity to leverage their network to offer your services? Or do you still need that connectivity with the telco, or are they two separate models?
No, it's exactly as you said, Sean. We are leveraging the existing networks provided by applications to land our telephone calls directly on the recipient's telephone, bypassing all traditional costs that traditional telephony operators are paying, bypassing all licensing, all regulation, and we are absolutely cutting out all middlemen in the equation, ensuring that Minutes Network are taking 100% of the revenue from the originating carrier for the calls that they send us.
And in doing so, they cannot technically shut down, let's say, a WeChat or a fintech application. They can't stop you from operating based on your technology because you integrated within the platform. Is that correct?
That's correct. We're working very closely with regulators. We onboarded Nisa Purcell. She's had 30 years experience plus at the ITU. She's now the current regulator in Samoa, Pacific Island.
Mm.
And we're very closely working with the ITU and regulators. By the way, I should mention Nisa is onboarded as a strategic advisor in the company. She's not paid. She onboarded herself because she liked the product and what we're doing. We're actually solving a big issue in the OTT market. Governments can't tax OTT providers like WhatsApp. And there's more to that. We'll be releasing some information on our B2G offerings in the near future. However, the regulators really like what we're doing, and the regulators accept us. We don't need any regulation because we're using an extension to the voice over IP protocols, and we do not require licensing to operate. We abide and fall within all of the rules, and we fall within all of the laws that allow us to operate this new proprietary model of hybrid telecommunications.
Exciting.
Yeah, very exciting. The one thing that really stood out to me of your last few statements there was the fact that you've already locked up over 10% of the world's population. That's an insane stat. Like I had to go back to it because that just blew my mind when you said that. And obviously, you said, yeah, you've got 1.2 billion coming on board, but it's just, when you think about the fact that that's over 10% of the world population, and you guys, as far as crypto goes, you haven't even launched yet. That's absolutely amazing.
Well, as I said, thank you very much, Brian. We're going to be driving mass adoption for Web3 technologies, and we are set to become and will become the largest telecommunications operator in the world by user base. So just to put that in perspective, China Mobile today have 850 million users accessible on their network.
Sure.
And with our first application onboarding, we have 1.2 billion users becoming available on our network. Moving forward, we will onboard, countless applications, which will grow that statistic tremendously in the near future. And we're very excited to do so.
Wow, that's amazing. So speaking of the near future, do you have any alpha that you can drop on our community here?
We have something called the Unity node. You don't pay for the Unity node. You don't stake for the Unity node, but it sits on your desk on an Android telephone and it generates cryptocurrency for you from home as part of the Decentralized Telecommunications initiative that we're rolling out. And you can find more information about that very, very soon. And we're doing that in partnership with World Mobile and Minutes Network. It's a fantastic product. The world is yet to see anything like we're about to release very shortly.
Wow, amazing.
Josh, and the important thing is so you get the guys that are invested into the project, you get the guys that are excited, the guys that want to buy tokens to flip. That's all cool, but how can a community get involved to help you guys grow more? So it's important to say, like, everybody's got a connection somewhere, right? And how would that person reach out to you guys in order to help you grow where you need to be? Where would they look at, what would they look for in helping Minutes grow to a monster of a company?
So anybody in the community can reach out to us via our socials or via inquiries at minutesnetwork.io. And you can bring telephone carriers. We appreciate more telephone carriers. If you have an application or you have a friend that has an application that would like to further monetize his user base, you can bring that application to us. And we have a website, apps.minutesnetwork.io. Anybody can sign up with their application. And we're very grateful for those applications and carriers. So if anybody in the community, anybody watching this has a carrier in mind, or a friend who works with a carrier, or a friend who owns or works with an application, we would love to hear from you, and we would love to help grow your monetization or improve your carrier's profitability. And in turn, you'll be helping us scale our network. So we welcome those people.
Fantastic. All right, Dad's Gone Crypto community and those who are watching from other communities, just understand that this could be a disruptor for the telecommunications company. And when it unveils itself, it could be that next thing that you wish you got into. So do your own research, go and check out Minutes, go read up on the technologies. It was an absolute pleasure having you on the show, Josh, and myself and Ryan are giddy because we've been learning a lot about the telco space thanks to World Mobile, and now we're even more excited in the space of what the possibilities are and the proprietary software and the alpha that you've basically shared with us today. We thank you very much for your time, and we wish you all the best for your future success.
Thank you so much for having me, Sean. Ryan, it's been a pleasure to be here today, and I look forward to our next session.
Thanks a lot,
Awesome.
Josh. Great talking to you.
Thank you.
Ciao.
The material and information presented in this recording are for entertainment purposes only. Do not misconstrue what you hear as investment or trading advice. Always do your own research. The views, thoughts, and opinions expressed by the guests on this recording are their own and do not necessarily reflect those of Dad's Gone Crypto or its hosts.